stand by.
Standing by.
It's the curse of the Omega Block, and that is going to keep the storm systems away. One dropping to our west, and then going to be to our south tomorrow, and a second one early next week that's coming into California. That's a pretty powerful storm that's moving in there. Well, guess what? That's one going to pass to our south too. So we've got a long stretch of dry weather, and we'll make it exciting because you know what? We always do right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. You really can. The link is pinned to the, actually, it's not pinned to the top of the chat board. It's on the description to this video. So use the coupon code WINTER 2023-24. Okay, the numbers 23-24, 2023-24. No, wait. Oh, is it winter 23-24? I forget. Well, whatever it is, it's on there on the link. You'll see it. Use it, because if you do, you'll get
10% off.
I should double check. I don't know why I'm having a memory fade. Winter 23-24. Okay, sorry about that. Oh, Mr. Ruben Fairchild's on the chat board tonight. Isn't that exciting?
Yes.
It is.
Well, everybody, regardless of who they are always welcome on the Joe and Joe Show.
Absolutely. And welcome to those of you who are on the chat board, and those of you who aren't. We welcome you too with big open arms to the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m., the occasional Friday and Saturday when a storm looms. That won't be a problem this week. If you like the show, hit the like button, because Joe and I like to see 100 likes. So Joe gets to tinkle the bell if you do, and make sure you turn your notifications on so that you don't ever miss us. So, anyway, I needed that extra day off yesterday, just because. And here we are. Oh, it's very exciting, Joe. I'm going to bring up the OKX radar. Do you know why?
Because we have little bitty flurries coming in on a southeasterly flow.
Yes, we have. Listen, it happens every so often. Actually, it tends to happen more in colder winters than this one, certainly. But a little bit of ocean effect.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we could call this the ocean effect.
It is the ocean effect. Actually, over the years living on Long Island, particularly in that stretch from 2000 to 2020, where it snowed a lot, used to get a lot of ocean effect and Long Island Sound effect snows. And sometimes we've had a couple of instances where that produced a few inches, believe it or not. But this time around, the way the wind is set up, we're seeing it. Actually, noticed them on the radar earlier this afternoon, starting to pop up, and you can see there's a little wave of moisture, little wave of snow showers off the coast of New Jersey, moving westward. It's kind of like lake effect, only with the ocean, and not nearly as powerful.
We had some skinny strands of snow or flurries yesterday. They showed up a little bit better than they're showing up right now. Again, being pushed along from east to west across Long Island. Again, on that southeasterly flow.
Yes, and this will probably last through at least part of the night before it relaxes. And I know many people, Joe, have been complaining over the fact that there just has not been any sunshine of consequence. I don't know if you got anything to break through the cloud cover today.
No, and in fact, in the 30 days, including today, I somebody had asked me on Facebook, what the story was, and I came up with this, Joe. In the 30 days that we've had so far in January, 4 days can be categorized as fair, clear, mainly sunny or whatever, but the other 26 had percentages of overcast or percentage of cloud cover ranging anywhere from 50 to 100%. It has been a dull, dreary month of January.
I bet you. Go ahead. I'm
Or
sorry.
you would say gloom and doom.
Gloom and doom. Yes, you have to say it with a deep voice. Gloom and doom.
Gloom
Uh,
and doom. Yes.
right, exactly. And yeah, you know, you got. I bet you. I will bet you that uh, a few those fairer days were in that stretch where it was cold, because the problem here is when you have a pattern, a warm pattern in the wintertime, seldom, seldom does that mean uh, sunshine and beautiful warm days in the 50s and 60s. It usually means dreary conditions and gloom and doom, and of course that started last Tuesday, and a lot of places haven't seen the sun now for going on to 7 days now.
Well, yeah. And the good news, if there is any good news, is that we're reaching the end of this string of, may I use the term dreck? Um,
You may.
I think that when we get into the weekend and beyond, we're finally going to have a stretch of bright, sunny skies for much of the time, from Saturday through Sunday and on into early next week.
And there's desperation because I've noticed through a lot of comments that this first off, uh, if you look at the satellite loop, you can see the rotation around the Great Lakes. There's an upper low that's dropping southeastward, and actually it's moving south southeastward. It's going to drop down almost to the southern Appalachians. I'm raining here out of this, by the way, and then redevelop a surface low off the coast of North Carolina that's going to go east and east southeast and pass really close to Bermuda. Okay, um, that was never going to really be an issue, but a lot of people, of course, they're turning and they're looking and they're seeing other people putting up stuff, and they're talking about, the system for early next week. It ain't coming up the East Coast. It's not. It can't. There is no, uh, there's no mechanism in the northern part of the jet stream that is going to get down there and pick it up and turn it northward. And they're all just sort of in a tizzy over this. And of course, I'm committing blasphemy by telling them it ain't going to happen. But it ain't going to happen, Joe.
Well, I said, what was it, on Sunday, that this is going to break the heart of all of the winter weather lovers because at one point, when you look at the weather maps, you say, "Oh my God, here is the classic setup: good cold high to the north, warm soggy storm center down in the south," and you say, "There it is. That's what has given us famous or even historically great snowfalls." But it's not going to happen because the cold high is going to be too big, too dry, too cold, and that storm, as you just mentioned, Joe, is just going to slither right underneath us, and we're probably not going to see any of it. It looks like we may have dry, sunny weather Saturday all the way through the middle of next week.
Yes. And I will
And
say,
people will probably be saying on Saturday and Sunday, especially, "All this cold weather, it's going to waste." But that's
well,
the way it goes sometimes.
it does. And I'll tell you this. Um, where's my towel? Do I have my towel? I should have it handy.
What are you throwing the
Um,
towel in already?
I have it folded and ready, ready in hand. And that's with regard to the long range, and I'll get to that, I guess. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Here's the wide radar view, and well, I just suddenly switched to the Dakotas where there's nothing going on. But here we go. So here's the radar, which is showing. Oh, God, why does it do that? Here it is. But you can see there's stuff aloft to the west in Pennsylvania, down into West Virginia and Northwest Virginia. Uh, Nothing here is reaching the ground. Uh, the You can see the specks off the New Jersey coast that are moving northwestward. This might spread out a little bit during the overnight. Yes, maybe somebody winds up with a coating. I think there were some places in Central Suffolk County yesterday on Long Island, yesterday evening, that there was a stick of snow showers that came off of Long Island Sound and just ran north south and whitened up the ground in some spots. I mean, that's probably
Deck,
the most
my
you'll
deck,
see.
my deck was whitened yesterday morning, actually late Sunday night, early Monday morning, and even my roof had a little bit of coating. But within a couple hours, gone.
Gone. Well, we got some showers in the southeast across eastern Tennessee and into western North Carolina, northern Georgia, and northern Alabama, the southern end of this mess, as it's upper low. Now, how many times do you see upper lows go from Michigan down to western North Carolina? Not often, but that's again thanks to that Omega block. And then you got to go all the way to the west coast, and this is where most of the action is going to be this week, because we've got a couple of systems that are coming in that are loaded with moisture. One's actually you would classify as a major storm that comes in over the weekend into California, and they're going to get absolutely clobbered, Joe, clobbered with rain. Take a look at WPC 7-day rainfall forecast for California from San Diego all the way up into southwestern Oregon. This is for the next 7 days. We're talking several, and in some cases in those orange areas, uh, 5 to 7 inches of rain. And of course, in the Sierra Nevada mountains, it's going to be snow. So they'll be measuring it there in feet. In the meantime, you can see the uh, moisture for the Gulf states. And if you look at the way the moisture is kind of drawn out here, this sort of tells you what the track of this storm system that's going to be coming into California, the first one, when it moves across the southern states. I mean, it's really going to track pretty far to the south. You've got inch and a half plus rains in Arkansas and Texas, inch and a half plus rains in southeast Louisiana and Mississippi, uh, half to three-quarter inch rains up to western North Carolina. But notice that the quarter of an inch, I mean, barely gets to southern Virginia, barely gets to southern Kentucky. So, this thing is going out. I mean, and of course, you see what the problem is. You talked about the dry air. I, no precipitation around the Great Lakes for the next 7 days. Spots in the northeast and northern mid-Atlantic states, no precipitation for the next 7 days. So that takes you right through next Tuesday night.
Well, that's what I said, wasn't it?
Yes.
I said the dry, fair weather would probably hang on through Saturday, Sunday, and right on through the middle of next week at least. Yeah, Tuesday night. Well, I mean, didn't look as far ahead as beyond that, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But I mean, we've got a nice stretch of dry weather coming and certainly we could use it after all of the gloom and doom that we've
Right.
had around here in recent days and even recent weeks.
No severe weather is forecast for the next 3 days by WPC, nor do we have any areas indicated in the long range. Now, as far as snow is concerned, here's what you got. So we can take a look in the great state of Maine, where we have a 50% or higher chance for at least 2 inches, and the northernmost part of New Hampshire, the northernmost part of Vermont is in that 50% area. And then you got to go all the way to the west, where we've got, a fair amount of geography, but places you would normally expect the mountain snows and valley rains. Mountain snows in the Sierra Nevadas, mountain snows in the Wasatch, mountain snows in western Colorado, also up into parts of Idaho, but not so much in the Cascades. And actually, we could put in the probability for at least 12. And you see in the Sierra Nevadas, we've got a stretch there. This is through Friday evening. We've got a stretch there of 80% or higher probability for at least 12. I'm going to put 18. Yeah, look, they got even a 70 to 80% chance indicated in two of those blue spots there in the Sierra Nevadas for at least 18. So, grab some hiking boots and clothes and head over to the mountains in California in the Sierra Nevadas, and you know what? That's where you'll get all the snow you want. And if we look at the long range, it's all in the west. Here at Saturday, long range probabilities for at least a few inches, already at 70 to 90% in those light blue areas, in pretty much the same areas that we just showed you for Saturday. Sunday, it shifts to the northern and central Rockies. We have areas of 50 to 70% of at least a few inches. For Monday, that was for Saturday to Sunday. This is for Sunday into Monday. You've got 10 to 30 in the light green. And again, in the Sierra Nevadas, you've got already a 50 to 70% chance for at least a few inches. And then for Monday into Tuesday in the Sierra Nevadas, it's a 50 to 70, even a 70 to 90% chance, Joe, of at least a few inches. I don't need to show you the east. You know why? Because there ain't anything there. And I have to tell you, I am truly, there's just so many weird things that have happened this winter. Of all records that got broken, Joe, apparently the other day, when we had all that fog, that set a record for there were, I think, 1,053 counties in the United States that had dense fog advisories, and that is the most that has ever happened.
Amazing. And it was a large area of, I mean, like I had rarely seen such a large region covered by dense fog advisories over the nation's midsection or on into the Midwest. So, yeah, it's fog has been, but of course, when I'm in a foggy condition, Joe, sometimes I tend to miss a few things.
Oh, how enchanting! That was
Yeah.
just so, Joe. That was just so enchanting. You
Yeah.
know, really. Uh, all right, so I'm going to just show you a few things with regards to the long range, and the opinion being expressed is mine, and you know, it's my opinion. I'm about to commit heresy, I know, but I'm going to tell you right now, as I'm already seeing it,
And
and
I'm already seeing on the chat board people who are joining it. I mean, like, I seen comments like the fat lady is now getting ready to step on the stage or whatever. I mean, like the people who are ready to just, you know, throw the towel in, so to speak, for the rest of the winter season, and not seeing any chance for us to revert back to a colder pattern. But from what I've been looking at, Joe, we may see a flip back to colder weather and more wintry conditions here by about the middle of this, by the middle of February.
okay, Jason Lee. I think that kind of tells you where I'm going with this. Um, Jason Lee, Joe, says, "Thou shalt be visited by the Lord of hosts with thunder and with earthquake and great noise, with storm and tempest and the fear flame of devouring fire." Well, you know what? Let me check the watches and warnings map, because if that's going to happen, I want to see if they put up any watches and warnings. And well, I mean, we've got winter storm warnings up already in California in the Sierra Nevadas, and also up in Sierra Nevada mountains, I should say, and also up in Northern California. We have a few winter storm warnings there, as we do in parts of Nevada. But let's not downplay the fact that there's going to be a lot of rain here, because we've got flood watches up already for southernmost California, including San Diego. And I suspect that by the time we get through the rest of the week, we're going to see, all the colors pop up in the western part of the United States. I just love some of these people. They wait all day for the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. It's when the religious fanatics and the porn people come on and put posts up. You know you've made it, okay? Because then you know that YouTube is actually sending out your show to just about everybody on Earth.
Well, they wouldn't waste their time on a podcast where they know hardly anybody's watching. They only do that for the podcasts that have either a hardcore base of viewers or listeners, or a large audience. So that's why they're wasting their time on us.
Right, exactly. So, Tom Contino, I hope you have a handkerchief so you can, wipe away the tears. And I'll tell you why. So, I'm looking at this is we're looking at the stratosphere, and this is what the polar vortex in the stratosphere. You don't want it wrapped up like a tight little ball, and of course, right now it's wrapped up like a tight little ball, just bouncing off of Siberia. But when we now, I've already rolled it to February 10th, and it's still wrapped up like a tight little ball. But it is forecast to begin to weaken, elongate, stretch, so that by the time we get to the 15th of February, folks, the 15th of February, you have an upper air. The stratosphere is kind of like what it was back in January when we went into that cold stretch. Okay, so there's the GFS, at least from what it's showing today, is showing this stretching. But I am going to tell you right now, I am skeptical, Joe, of any important change happening. Uh, I see on the models, I see on the ensembles, and I see on the climate models. Let's go to the ensembles for example for the moment, and they all, the GFS in particular has it. By the time we get to day 11, day 12, all of a sudden we've got you know big time falling heights in the eastern part of the United States. We've got a nice ridge up the west coast, and we've got an uh, the jet is undercutting, the Pacific jet is undercutting that ridge. So you got a bit of a split flow that comes across Mexico and through the south. So that certainly says that the models are certainly kind of pointing in this direction. I looked at the climate model today, the CFS, the can't forecast what model, and let me see if the new one's been updated. Uh,
Daniello Evangelista, I don't know what you've been looking at. He says, Joe, when the polar vortex weakened this past month, it didn't produce anything. Oh, really? It didn't produce anything. And I had more than a couple of people on my Facebook page make the same commentary. And I said, well, really? I had 8 consecutive days here in Putnam Valley where the temperature did not crack 32 degrees. Also, during that week, I had not one but 2 storms which brought snow, which totaled overall between the two systems 7 to 8 inches. And up until a couple of days ago, I still had a front lawn that was covered in snow. So I don't know. Is that nothing? Is that your opinion of
People,
that polar vortex not producing anything? Because it did produce something, at least around where I am. And in fact, I even had a couple of mornings where the temperature consecutively hit 10 and 11 degrees. So I don't know what you're looking for. Are you looking for 0 or sub-zero for 12 or 14 or 16 days? Are you looking
have it.
for 12?
You can
Are you
have it
looking
if you
for
want it.
are you looking for 12 to 18 inches? Why don't you go and talk to the people in the Dakotas, Minnesota, Chicago, who went through? I mean, that's all I saw for several days on the news, the national news, and another terrible cold spell for the Midwest. And Nora O'Donnell, let's go to the Weather Channel and our partners and tell us about when this cold is going to break. I mean, getting fed up with this. We have had spells of cold weather so far in this month of January. Even this morning, it was chilly, I would say. And now we're going to go through a period of a couple of weeks of tranquil weather. But, Joe, I say it again, I'll say it true that about the middle of this upcoming month of February, I think we're going to see a flip back to colder weather again.
I-
Oh,
and we
wait a minute.
and
Hold on, Daniello and all of those other people on Facebook. Oh, you're gonna have a flip to what? We didn't have cold weather yet. Yeah, get over it.
Joe, you have to accept the fact that there's a bunch of people out there who seem to think that you're supposed to be below 32 degrees and it's supposed to snow every day from November 1st to April 30th, and anything less than that is a disappointment. I mean, that's just how they live their lives.
So
Um,
far, this has been a somewhat better winter than last winter. I know last winter was nothing.
well, you
I,
set the
I
bar low.
I've always set the bar low. Yeah, exactly. But we still have pretty much half a winter to go. I mean, the midpoint of astronomical winter will be over this weekend, and we still have the rest of February for meteorological winter. So just don't give up.
You know, I'm just going to tell you that I'm just highly suspect. I'm not. All the models in the long range, and we've gone down this road how many times this winter? Oh, it's in the long range. It's here in 10 days. And then, the next day it's a day later. And the next day it's a day later. It's the next day is a day later. Well, guess what? I'm noticing that now. Now it's a day later. Now it's a day later. Now it's a day later. I, I, I can tell you this. You're going to have to wait at least. You're going to have to wait till the middle of the month before anything truly changes. And in the meantime, with this Omega block, I mean, this actually could have been a great pattern if the Omega block was centered a little further to the west, where you had the trough, somewhere down along 80. then you'd be jumping up and down. But uh, the fact is that the trough is offshore, and what happens? So watch this lead. This is the system from over the weekend. Okay, that goes out, and not really doesn't get out of the way very well. The next system diving into the lakes, there's no real room. So what happens? It can't go east, so it goes south southeast. I mean, when you want these things to go down there, when you've got the setup for moisture and everything else along the East Coast and cold, they model them to go southeast, and by the time you get to reality, it winds up going up through southern Canada, and it's a cold front. Well, this one's dropping south southeast off the North Carolina coast. There's no room here. This gets kicked out, so that goes away. Now, with this big blocking high that's building north of Lake Winnipeg, okay, we have a 576 height in the middle of winter up in central Canada, which is beyond belief. Omega blocks are things you usually see in warmer times of the year. You don't see them too often in the wintertime. But with that Omega block there, what happens? Well, here comes that California energy that comes in that we spoke of. You've got this upper low in northern Texas. Well, can't go into the block. You've got northwest winds up and down the eastern seaboard, folks, from eastern Canada all the way down into South Carolina. How are you going to turn anything up the East Coast with something like this is beyond me. And the fact is that you can see how this upper low just gets shunted eastward and actually moves southeastward over Florida and into the Bahamas. What's next? They're going to send out recon planes to see if it's tropical. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
Jesus. I mean,
yeah.
this is insane. But it's obviously blocked to go to the Great Lakes because there's a big upper high there, but it's also blocked to go up to the Northeast because you've got northerly winds in the upper atmosphere. So that's going to go out. And I don't care what anybody says. Oh, well, it could trend north, blah, blah, blah. The only way you got to get if there's a system south of Nova Scotia, if that doesn't get out of the way, there's no way on God's green earth that that's going to come up. And then after that, the Omega block starts to break down. So now you got to lose a bunch of days because you got to go through that process. So we're now into February 9th, where we're in a ridge position here along the East Coast. And gradually the models take that ridge away and then only bring it back on the 13th on this run. And then finally, at the end of the period, as always, the bitter cold air is here. It's at 372 and 384 hours. So you know what? Don't even. I'm not even going to waste my time getting all worked up over this until I actually see it inside the 5-day time frame. And by the way, speaking of which, look at what has changed now for this weekend because we had models as you with this cold front that's coming through on Thursday, okay? And maybe there's a shower with that Thursday night into Friday morning. All right. Um, we were supposed to go down to thicknesses down to near 510. All right. I was looking at European soundings that had lows in New York City in the single digits and highs not getting out of the teens for Saturday and Sunday. And now it barely gets cold. It barely gets cold. Another instance where the high going into eastern Canada, okay, um, is nowhere near as cold or as strong as what the models do in the longer term, and that's what's working out here. And you see what happens with this. Look at the California. You get this massive area of precip that comes inland Wednesday night and Thursday, and then moves east as the low redevelops in New Mexico. But it gets shoved out across the Gulf states and then out off the North Carolina coast, and then it moves southeast. It practically rotates and goes south of Bermuda. I mean, this is crazy stuff.
I'm
This
just
is
reading some of. Yeah, I know, Joe. I know.
this is just
And,
crazy stuff for this time of year.
and I mean, that map for the end of the month. Um, well, the map that I'm looking at right now, January 30th. Excuse me, the map I'm looking at right now for February the 7th, which was
Right.
initialized on January 30th. I mean, that reminds me so much. Again, I mentioned this on Sunday of the winter of 72, 73, where we had more than a few of these amazing storms moving across the southeast or off the mid-Atlantic coast, the cold high off to the north, and they just never came up, never came up, and we missed everything. Um, I but I don't think that that's going to continue through the rest of the winter season. I think we're going to get at least a couple of more shots of cold and possible snow. Um, it's a different. It's just the problem is, you know, with the models, the guidance models, I should say. We shouldn't use them as fact, or just as to guide us. Um, you really, as you just said, we can't really go much beyond 5 or 6 days with these things because things change over a span of 1 or 2 weeks in terms of the overall upper pattern. So
Right.
we just have
The
to
upper
wait and see.
if there's some quirk in the upper pattern this weekend that creates an opening, prove it to me. That's all I can say. Prove it to me because I'm not seeing it now. But I think it's just highly unlikely. This thing is just going. That's going out. I get to enjoy gloom and doom for days while that whole thing plays through the long way across the South instead of coming up from the South and just going and I I get 8 to 12 hours of whatever I get. This is going to be one of those long processes for me here in Georgia, where it's cloudy and rainy for days. And by the way, I totally sympathize with the gloom and doom folks because it gets like that here in the winter and in the spring quite a bit. So it's very depressing, very depressing. By the way, here's a major announcement. I don't know if you saw this, but guess what's going away?
I don't know what is going away.
The European operational run is going away in March.
Really,
Yes,
really.
yes. What the European, the European model is not a government thing. It's a private company that.
I heard that the HRRR is going bye-bye next year for a new model.
Well, for a new model that's just as bad. Um,
So if we
no,
don't have an operational European model, what are we going to rely on, Mrs.
okay.
Anson?
So what they're doing is they have made a decision that they are going to focus. They're going to focus more of their computations into the European and shambles. Okay, so the operational run is being discontinued, and they're going to be using the the control run of the European as the operational run, whatever the main control run is. And there's like 5 million members of the control run, but there must be like the master control run. All right. So that's going to become the new operational. So now we have a new, now we're going to have a new European, which means we're going to have to learn all the new biases that the new this European is going to have. Um, I was talking with Bill Goodman about this with respect to the fact that about a year or so ago when they did the last upgrade, they took some of the computing power away from the operational models and put it into the ensembles. Okay, which I think kind of explains why the operational run on the European has gotten somewhat squirrely over the last year. Well, now they're just going to get rid of it altogether to put even more attention on the and shambles.
I could just see some of the people at ECMWF headquarters, and we're tired of this all getting blown out. We're tired of it these forecasts not coming out right. Let's just get rid of it and concentrate on the ensembles.
Yeah, exactly.
And there you go.
So now you have I think the European has like 54 members or something.
I think so. Yeah, that's
Um,
twice as many as the American, the GFS model has.
oh yeah, exactly. So, you've got all these desperate people. I'm getting now I'm getting really bombarded by the geoengineering people because naturally everything that's been happening, everything now shows geoengineering. It's all being created, all being crafted. I told one person that wherever I looked at the storm list and All I can and I wrote it like this. I said, all I can say is I don't want to be you next month.
Well, you know what we should do now? You know what we should concentrate on? The only model that is trustworthy, the only model that we know would be 100% correct. Navy no gaps.
Oh, the no gaps. Yeah, I mean that. You know, you always went to those models when you're trying to look for something to move up the East Coast to see if they did it. Then you could sort of hang your prayer
Yes.
on the. Well, let's just there's the Navy, which is now called the Nav Gem. Okay, and if we look at the Nav Gem, I mean, it's got a stripe of moisture. It doesn't have rain or snow. I think it's just regular, just mean level pressure and precip. So for next week, it's
Brandon
got.
Gra- Brandon Gravlobachov
Hmm.
saying it could be an epic failure and be a shamble like Ann Shambles.
uh,
How about the Nav Gem? So
yeah. Well, even the Nav Gem doesn't give you hope. How about oh God, the JMA, although I have to give credit, the Japanese model every once in a while hits a home run. The JMA is even further south. It's got the low in the Gulf of Mexico, southeast of New Orleans, and not by a short distance either. By Sunday morning, onto the Florida Panhandle near Panama City Monday morning, and then Tuesday morning straight east off the Florida East Coast, halfway between Florida and Bermuda. So you tell me how you're going to get this to lift up the East Coast, especially because if you look, by the way, take a look at this. Look at the upper low that's going to drop in off the East Coast. The first one pulls out, another
I,
one rotates around and
I'm
drops
still
down
seeing
through
us.
New
I'm
England
still
and
seeing us,
out.
Joe.
Okay, here, I'll give everybody the depression here. So take a look at this. So this is where, how is this going to come up the East Coast? There's your upper low in the south. There's one off near Nova Scotia on Saturday. That pulls out, okay, but then there's an arm that rotates around, and another upper low closes off in the Gulf of east of Cape Cod next Tuesday and Wednesday as this thing gets just shoved out underneath. Of course, by then the Omega block is gone. So you know what, folks, you're going to have to wait. First of all, we got to get through the rest of this week. Then you got to get through next weekend and next week because after early next week, the Omega block is going to break down, and then so you have to wait for that process to finish up, and then you have to wait for the atmosphere to rearrange all the other chess pieces, and then by the 15th of February, if the models are right, then you'll get your shot of cold. But I'm going to tell you that when we come on tomorrow night, you're going to see it the same. It's going to be not the 15th, now it's the 16th. And the next night, it's not the 16th, it's going to be the 17th. And you know what? If you miss your window now, you got a problem because it's February 15th, at the earliest when this is going to set up. That's just my opinion. I know I'm probably hacking on. Maybe it's good that I'm feeling like this because I started to feel like this before we got the change in January that lasted for a week. Uh, but in some places it was longer because you had those big storms
And and to
that went
those
up to the Great Lakes.
and to those people out there who you know feel that we've already had some cold and some snow, whatever like that, and we're wondering when we're going to get out of this. I say, hang in there, Joe. You say that the clock is running down and the winter is slowly fading away, but within 4 weeks from today, the maple sap will be flowing.
Yes, it will be.
Within six
Right.
weeks, within 6 weeks, the earliest migrating birds will begin to arrive in numbers, and within 8 weeks, the early spring wildflowers will emerge from the earth, and you'll feel the warm sun on your face once again. And by the way, the sap runs every two
Every
years.
2 years, yes. How long is a congressman's term in office? The SAP runs every 2 years. Oh, and we also know why Marie Antoinette was brought to the guillotine to scrape the
Boy,
barnacles off her hull.
that's right.
All
Uh,
right. While I'm getting Briller Jeopardy, Joe, you need to ring the bell.
well, my thing says 99, but
Well,
I
we're
will.
we're at 107.
There you go. Ring, 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 ring. Voila.
Okay. So here we go. Tonight's Briller Jeopardy, brought to us by Scott Briller. Just a note of information that Scott's mom took a fall, so we wish her well. She is in the hospital right now, and we all the best wishes to Scott and Mother Briller. Um, okay, so here we go. The average high temperature in the month of January, Joe, for Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia,
Okay, well, the average high temperature in January now?
in January.
In January. How does 61 sound?
That's way too high, Joe. It's already been hit by Vincent Croce at 54. 54 is the average high. Coin Pig also and Tontino nailing it at 54. So our next city tonight is the snow capital of the Mid Atlantic at the moment. With
Atlantic City?
no, with I think depending on where you are here, you either have uh, 8 inches or 12 inches. Is Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Now, my question is, how does everybody in Baltimore feel after what happened to the Ravens on Sunday?
Oh,
Um, so you said my high temperature for Atlanta was too high.
all right.
All right. How about for Baltimore? As I trend everything around here, how about 43?
You could ring the bell for yourself.
Oh,
Uh, right, 43. So all of you who got 43, and there's quite a few of you, William Uber, Rich Rothmansky, um, John Melander, and I'm sure I missed a couple of others. 43 is the correct answer. The next one is Beantown, Boston.
Boston. And Frank Scalera, thank you for hitting Super Chat. You, along with Trish Sparaccio, have hit the tip jar tonight, and we very much appreciate it. So I said 43 for Baltimore. I think New York would probably be around 40. So Boston would probably be somewhere around, I don't know, 38.
Ooh, Snake Country, Joe. But we've
Well,
already have those who have hit it. Mark Franz, Senior, not to be confused with Mark Franz Jr., David Carter, uh, Christopher Bear, Lua Aritzio, all saying Michael Azara, Mike Waterhouse, William Uber, and all the saints who have done your will throughout the ages. 37 is the correct answer. Okay. Buffalo.
Buffalo,
Buffalo.
which by the way is in the path of the total eclipse this coming April. Buffalo. How about Toity Tree?
Hoity Tree. Well, 33 is Snake Country. Patrick Darcy nails it at 32. And
Oh,
Danilo Evangelista at 32. And David Carter at 32. And Joe Lopresti at 32. Mia K, flip your 3 and 2 from 23 to 32, and you'd have the correct answer. And the next one and the last one before the bonus is Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago.
Chicago, Illinois.
Ah,
Chicago, I'm annoyed.
I'm going to say 33 again.
Ring your bell, Joe. Ring the bell for yourself because you have hit the correct answer. That's
Ta-da.
that's twice tonight.
That's
You
not
made
bad.
you made up for your Atlanta faux pas.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't live in the South.
And the well, judging by your temperatures, you do. Caribou, Maine.
Caribou.
Caribou, Maine is the bonus tonight.
How about 21?
Oh my, you are in a hot streak, guy. Go play a lottery ticket. Ring the bell.
Really?
21.
Wow.
21. 21. Oh, God. So I mentioned about the European,
I'm playing the role of Joe Cioffi tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
which is what?
Well, I mean, you always seem to
Oh,
get it on.
I was on a hot streak the last couple of days.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm trying to think if there was anything else to talk about, and yeah, there really isn't. I mean, this is what happens now that we're going into sort of a bit of a snooze here, um, reaching, reaching out for, whatever hope there would be for cold and snow. I'm just kind of, I'm just not that bullish here. I'm just not. I don't care what, I know the long range models are all going that way, and the climate models are going that way, and and I understand what your position is, and it's totally reasonable considering the models. I'm just at this point now where it's like, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and have it pushed back for another 10 days and then suddenly it's March 1st and you're sitting around waiting for that one last chance because then that's what it will be, the one last chance.
It eventually is going to come. And last winter, for me, my biggest snowfall,
And your
11
only
inches.
snowfall, really.
No, I had a few. But the biggest one last year was on March 14th, 11 inches. And it was an elevation snow, I might add, because I'm at 500 feet, and places that are, that were near sea level or only about 100 feet, places like Cortland Manor, which is just a stone's throw away to our south. They said, "What snow? Yeah, a little coating. That's about it." That's
Right.
so that's when it comes, Joe.
That's right. Exactly. It comes when it comes. And some years, and by the way, uh, uh, today, 2 years ago today, or yesterday,
I
um,
remember.
we had we had a big snowstorm that put 2 feet of snow over parts of Long Island and southeastern Connecticut. Islip set its 1 day, 24-hour snow record at I think just under 24 inches. I think New York City got about 9 or 10. You were chipping through snow that froze with temperatures down in the single digits. I mean, that was only 2 years ago, and we've gone. If we, you look back on weather records, folks, we've from 1983, you had to wait till 1994 before you got your, well, actually 19, even from the superstorm of 93, a lot of places got about a foot, but you had to wait almost 10 years in between drinks at the well. All right, so it's only been 2 years since the last big snowstorm that we've had.
Yes, I was looking for the picture. There was 9 degrees outside, and I didn't have all that much in the way of snow, Joe. I only had about 4 inches. But man, to try to blow away or get rid of 4 inches of snow with a temperature of 9 and a sub-zero wind chill, that was tough. I remember that well. It was a Saturday, if I'm correct.
It was, and we were live on that Saturday.
Oh, I'm just looking. I'm just looking at a Joe and Joe that we did back in 2019. Can I share this?
You can try.
Let me
Let me.
share
All
this.
right, hold on. Let
Let me
me.
share the screen.
Vincent Croce, yeah, the '96 blizzard was the one that started on Sunday morning and didn't end until 5 o'clock Monday afternoon. At least on Long Island, that was the case because I drove in when the first flakes fell, and I drove home as the last flakes fell, and came to an unshoveled house.
Can you see that?
I see it. Oh, and I'm seeing what a bitter cold, wicked wind chills
Into Thursday.
into
Chance
Thursday. Chance of
chances of snow to
snow
the south of New
south,
York.
South New York City Friday. Warmer weekend. Hashtag, 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 hashtag.
They wanted a lot of hashtags when we used to work there.
Yes, and
But
I,
there, but there
I,
you go,
I didn't
folks.
bother with that crap.
There you go. 5 years ago on this day, it looked like it was pretty darn cold, considering how I was bundled up in that. Well, that studio was always cold to begin with, but
Yeah.
So there you are.
Oh God. There we go. Okay. Now we're back to that. I was wondering.
Going back, going back to memories.
Yes. So there. That was in 19.
Right.
You know, what can I tell you, folks? You didn't live through the 70s. If you did, you'd understand this. And in the 80s, a lot of the winters were like this. They stunk up the joint most of the time. So, but for winter weather lovers. Thank you, William. I look great in a suit, he said. I haven't worn a suit, Joe. When was the last time I wore a suit? Probably the day we got was our last day at FiOS in 2019.
Okay. Well, I don't spend all that time with you, so I can't say yes or no or whatever.
No, I have. It's the last time I ever that I've worn a suit.
All right.
I don't, I don't do suits. I
Ryan
just
Levine
don't.
says, Ryan Levine's asking, remember Roberto Torado?
And
And
you know what? The Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast. Use the coupon code WINTER2324, and if you do, you'll get
10% off. And my wife says we'd rather forget. All right.
um, we'll see everybody tomorrow night. Night, everyone.